Education, the word itself evokes aspirations of a brighter future. It holds the promise of progress, of opportunity, of a life filled with purpose. Yet, for a growing number of students, this promise rings hollow. Instead of a pathway to fulfillment, education has become a source of unbearable pressure, leading some to the most tragic of ends, suicide. The statistics paint a grim picture. Student suicides are rising at an alarming rate, a chilling counterpoint to the decreasing youth population. Even more concerning is the fact that this trend encompasses mature students, including those pursuing PhDs, highlighting the pervasive nature of this crisis. It's a stark reminder that the pursuit of knowledge in its current form is failing to nurture the very minds it seeks to develop. This essay delves into the complex factors contributing to this tragic phenomenon. We will explore the crushing weight of academic pressure, the insidious role of socio-economic inequality, and the often overlooked crisis of mental health within our educational institutions. By understanding the forces at play, we can begin to formulate effective solutions and move towards a future where education empowers and uplifts rather than isolates and overwhelms. At the heart of the student suicide crisis lies a culture of relentless pressure. From a young age, children are conditioned to believe that academic success is the sole measure of their worth. Parental expectations, societal pressures, and the competitive nature of entrance exams create an environment where students are constantly striving, often at the cost of their well-being. This pressure is further compounded by the economic realities of education. The rising cost of tuition, coupled with limited job opportunities, places immense financial strain on students and their families. The fear of failure, of not living up to expectations or securing a stable future, can become an unbearable burden. Adding to this toxic mix is the pervasive stigma surrounding mental health. Many students suffer in silence, afraid to seek help for fear of judgment or discrimination. The lack of accessible and affordable mental health services within educational institutions exacerbates this problem, leaving countless young people feeling isolated and alone. The consequences of this perfect storm of pressure, financial strain, and inadequate mental health support are devastating. Students pushed to their limits may see suicide as the only escape from their perceived failures and overwhelming despair. While the student suicide crisis affects all segments of society, it is essential to acknowledge the unequal burdens borne by different groups. Gender, for instance, plays a significant role in shaping the experiences and vulnerabilities of students. Although males have historically accounted for a larger proportion of student suicides, recent trends indicate a worrying rise in female suicides. This points to the unique pressures faced by young women, including societal expectations, gender discrimination within certain academic fields, and a lack of support systems tailored to their specific needs. Geographical location also intersects with socioeconomic factors to influence suicide rates. While high-pressure academic hubs understandably witness a higher incidence of suicides, it is crucial to note the disproportionate impact on students from marginalized communities and rural areas. Limited access to quality education, financial constraints, and a lack of awareness about mental health resources create a perfect storm of vulnerability for these students. Understanding these disparities is not about creating a hierarchy of suffering, but about crafting targeted interventions that address the specific needs of different student populations. A one-size-fits-all approach will not suffice. We need nuanced solutions that account for the complex interplay of gender, socioeconomic background, and geographical location. Reimagining education towards a future that prioritizes well-being. The student suicide crisis is a wake-up call. It is a stark reminder that our current education system, fixated on competition and standardized testing, is failing to meet the needs of a generation grappling with unprecedented pressures. To stem this tide of despair, we must fundamentally reimagine the purpose and delivery of education. This requires a multi-pronged approach. Firstly, we must move away from a singular focus on academic achievement and embrace a more holistic definition of success that encompasses mental, emotional, and social well-being. This requires integrating mental health education and support services into the very fabric of our educational institutions. Secondly, we must address the systemic inequalities that exacerbate the vulnerabilities of certain student groups. This includes tackling the root causes of financial stress, such as the rising cost of education, and ensuring equitable access to quality education and mental health resources for all students, regardless of their background or location. Finally, we must foster a culture of open communication and empathy within our schools and universities. This involves creating safe spaces for students to share their struggles, training educators to identify and support at-risk individuals, and dismantling the stigma surrounding mental health. The path forward is clear. We must move beyond the narrow confines of rote learning and exam scores and embrace an education system that prioritizes the well-being of every student. Only then can we fulfill the true promise of education, to empower individuals to ignite their passions and to equip them with the tools to lead fulfilling and meaningful lives.